Begin.
Okay, great. First off, thank you all for your patience while we try to sort this out. Where we live in a modern day of an age where anything can go wrong, and we are here to fix it. My name is Cordell McGarry. I work with the Department of Procurement Services, but specifically in the Office of Contracting Equity, and I've been asked to provide information regarding how to get certified with the City of Chicago. So let's get started. Our goals in this presentation is to talk about the benefits of certification, basically the qualifications for certification, who would qualify, the requirements, the application process, which should include required documents and information that you would need to prepare, and what happens after the applications are submitted. Thank you, Jackie. So to begin, the Department of Procurement Services, we're the contracting authority for the purchase of goods and services for all of the departments of the city of Chicago. And to say that we normally are involved in the purchase of items for as small as ink pens to fire trucks, I like to say, for different departments. As a group, we work together with the city departments as well as our customers to try to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process in the contracting procedures that we have. And in that way, we try to enforce superior business practices and making sure that the services are provided in a superior way to you. Next slide. So in the city of Chicago, we have 6 certification programs that are designed to try to create a level playing field so that small businesses can participate in contracting opportunities with the city of Chicago. Again, as a Department of Procurement Services, we generally will spend roughly between 1.5 plus billion dollars a year on the goods and services. So we try to offer programs that will try to provide opportunities for small businesses, minority and women-owned, to participate in those contract opportunities. So currently we have 6 different certification programs to try to meet that aim. The first 4 that you see listed on the screen are what I call local programs, and that they're governed under the city's ordinance. Those would be the Minority-Owned Business Enterprise, or MBE, Women-Owned Business Enterprise, or WBE, a program for veteran-owned businesses, VBE, and one for business enterprises that are owned and operated by people with disabilities. In addition to the local programs, we have 2 federal programs that aim to serve the same purpose for businesses that are looking for contract opportunities that involve federal dollars. And they're governed under federal regulations with the United States Department of Transportation. Those are called the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, or DBE, and then one for airport concession operators that want to work at the airport, or ACDBE. Jackie? So we're going to talk about the benefits of certification at this particular point. Certification is a tool that we use to participate in these contract opportunities. They are to guarantee that you'll get a contract once you get certified, but most certainly the aim is to put you in position to be able to take advantage of the opportunity as it comes about. The benefits of certification are many, but to talk about the 3 that I consider to be very, very important is that one, the very first thing is that it provides visibility to the certified business. Once you're certified, you're listed in a directory which is accessible to the general public and all prime contractors that are seeking to work with you on contract opportunities. And normally your business is listed by the name, the owner, basically what the product or service is provided by that particular company. We set aside minority, women, and disadvantaged participation goals on the City of Chicago projects and sister agencies. And basically, we try to set aside a percentage of the contract as an opportunity for participation by the minority, women, and disadvantaged businesses. In addition to the public sector, there are also businesses in the private sector that have supply diversity programs. They too want to do business with minority and women-owned businesses. And being certified with the City of Chicago is one way for those businesses in the private sector to validate that particular business is a small or minority-owned business, and it also makes it available, provide opportunities for those businesses to also still participate in goods and services that are offered by those businesses in the private sector. An example of a business in the private sector could be like, for example, a hospital or a university, or any businesses out there that's just trying to more or less provide opportunities to smaller minority businesses. Jackie? So in addition to the goals I also mentioned, that we have a target market program where we provide 100% of the contract opportunity to certified minority and women-owned businesses. Whereas in the earlier slide, I talked about a set aside or a percentage of a contract opportunity. In these particular cases, the entire contract opportunity is open to participation with certified minority and women-owned business enterprises. Jackie? So qualifying groups that are able to participate in all the programs are basically listed here. With the exception of people with disabilities and veterans, the federal program recognizes, in terms of being disadvantaged, businesses that are African Americans, Hispanic, Asian Indian, and women. Those will constitute the groups that will qualify for participation with the federal programs. Our local programs, the MBE, WBE, also include the four that I mentioned earlier, but also we have a program for veterans, and we have a program for people with disabilities, and those would be the VBE and BEPD programs that we spoke of earlier. In addition to those qualifying groups, other individuals who may not fit into one of these categories can also seek to be included in purposes of certification on an individual basis, who will be able to prove that they were also victims or subject to social and economic disadvantage throughout the course of their time here in the States. Jackie? With regards to our Veteran-Owned Business Enterprise Program, or VBE, that was a program that we rolled out roughly about 2018, and we defined participants in this program as veterans that have served in the United States Armed Forces and were discharged under honorable conditions. And normally we look at supporting evidence to be forms that are called DD 214 or DD 215, which are offered by the Veterans Administration. If an applicant has served as a veteran and they don't have these particular forms, we ask that they contact the Veterans Administration to get a copy. Jackie? Okay, so we're going to talk a little about certification requirements. I'm going to begin, though, by basically saying that for certification, we certify small businesses based upon, of course, they're qualifying as a minority or a woman, and also that they provide a good a service that they pretty much control or have the basic understanding of. We certify the businesses based upon what they do, and from that we'll move forward. Jackie? Jackie? Okay, so basically what's required in our local program, we define eligible businesses as being with their operations in we call a local area of Cook, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, or Will. And these basically, this is where your primary business office is situated and which your principal place that you're operating from. And that would be for our local businesses, the MBE, WBE programs. For our federal programs, DBE and ACDBE, you can be located anywhere in the state of Illinois. All businesses must be at least 51% owned, controlled, and managed by a member of a group that's considered to be a minority, woman, veteran, or disadvantaged individuals. So those would be the basic elements for certification. Next slide. Okay. Businesses are also measured by their business size. The program is designed to work with small businesses, and the definition of the small business, what constitutes a small business, can vary among our programs. With regard to our local programs, we have two types of certifications under the MBE, WBE programs. We have businesses that are certified primarily to do construction work, and those that are involved in non-construction work or professional services, for example, or things of that nature. The size standards for businesses that are not involved in construction work or non-construction basically is a fixed number that we adjust on an annual basis. And we define businesses in this particular group to be those that don't have gross receipts that don't exceed 46.8 million, which is averaged over 3 years. If you're involved in construction work, your gross receipts are actually targeted or tied to SBA, Small Business Administration size standards, which are published by the United States Small Business Administration, and they're done by industry. So let's say, for example, if I'm in the construction business and I'm an electrician, that's what I do. Your classification would be noted in the SBA size standard guide at a particular number, and that's averaged over so many years. For our construction segment of the MBE, WBE program, we average those gross sales over a 7-year period. And it basically is equated to 1.5 times the average, the number that's published in the SBA size standard. Again, going back to my example, as a contractor, if I was involved as an electrical contractor, the SBA would probably define my business size standard as not to exceed $19 million. Under the city's program, or under the city's guideline, we increased that standard 1.5 times, or roughly to about 24.5 million, to define you as a small business. So in that scenario, if I'm involved in construction as an electrical contractor, as long as my gross sales don't exceed roughly 24.5 million, that's averaged over a 7-year period, I'm considered to be a small business. For the DBE program, it's similar. It's a little different. Can we go back? Thanks, Jackie. The DBE program is a little different. The federal program requires that the gross sales are averaged over 5 years, and they're directly tied to the SBA size limit for that particular line of business. So as an electrical contractor, the SBA has defined my level of gross sales not to exceed 19 million. That would be the size standard for me as a DBE, and that's averaged over 5 years. And there's also a ceiling for certain types of businesses that may have a larger size standard, but in the DBE program, there's a cap or a ceiling of 30.4 million for the 3-year average. So some industries like heavy duty construction, for example, might have a size standard in the SBA guidelines of $45 million. In the federal DBE program, there's a cap on that to say that, okay, even though the SBA size standard might be 45 million for purposes of this program, you can't exceed roughly an average of 30.4 million, and that's averaged over 3 years. We work it out, it's okay. So for ACDBE, again, it's a fixed number, and that's averaged over 3 years. It's roughly 56.42 million. And the high number reflects the normal investment that some concessions have to make to actually get established in the airport. And it allows them to pretty much recoup that over time. Anyway, information regarding our SBA size standards are located at the bottom of this particular page. And also you can always contact our office too for additional information. Jackie? In addition to the business size standard, in cases, the owners of the business, in many cases, should not have a personal net worth that exceeds a certain threshold. So for our local program, again, we have construction and non-construction firms. For those firms that are involved in construction activities, we ask that the qualifying owners do not have a personal net worth that exceeds $2.49 million per year. This number is evaluated and adjusted annually by the city of Chicago. The personal net worth basically is equivalent to the personal assets of the qualifying owner less the personal liabilities of that personal owner. And the difference is what we call a personal net worth. And we make certain adjustments in cases to exclude things such as the owner's interest in their residential property, any real estate equity or owning businesses that are related to that, pensions, 401k, and other retirement savings and investment programs. For the DBE program, I'm sorry, I apologize. For the non-construction MBE firms, there is no personal net worth threshold. So that doesn't apply to those firms that are non-construction. For our federal or DBE programs, there is a threshold for personal net worth that applies to all businesses that seek certification in the program. And it roughly is currently at roughly $1.32 million. We do anticipate this number to be changed real shortly. And we will, of course, adjust as once that occurs. But that's done by the United States Department of Transportation. So once they've notified us of any changes, we'll, of course, adjust that number as well. And like the MBE program, the calculation of net worth, personal assets less personal liabilities also excludes the owner's equity in any residential property that they may own, businesses that are seeking certification, and retirement savings and investment programs. Jackie? So businesses, the type of businesses that could qualify for certification will vary. Typically, we don't require that you must be a corporation or LLC. We recognize that, when you're organizing a business, there are different ways upon which you may form that business. So we're going to talk a little bit about those type of businesses that are eligible for certification. On this screen, we talk about sole proprietors, general partnerships as well. And a sole proprietor is typically a business that's owned by the individual. It's basically is that individual. Like for example, if I open up a business as a plumber, it's just me. I'm Cordell McGarry. I do plumbing work, and that could be my business. In a situation like that, I'm personally liable for the business, of course, and what happens with the business, but that's part of the process. If I change my name and say Cordell McGarry doing business as Handy Dandy Plumbing Company, I can still operate as as a proprietorship, but I must provide what's called a certificate of the assumed name that basically will identify myself as doing business under this particular name as opposed to myself personally. In a partnership, we generally talk about two or more people that agree to go into business together to provide a service. And that's generally done without any real formalities, other than maybe an agreement between the two that pretty much say that John and Joe are going to get together and they're going to form the J&J partnership. Next slide. In addition to the ones I talked about earlier, we have corporations, which is probably the granddaddy of all the businesses, as I like to say. And basically, a corporation is a legal entity that's separate from the individuals that are comprised its ownership. Basically, it allows for those owners to invest in the business without being personally liability for the debts of that business. Their equity interest in the business is pretty much the extent of their liability. This form of organization should be in good standing with the state of Illinois. In this case, should have articles of incorporation, a certificate that identifies them as being incorporated. The corporation should have bylaws that govern the activities of that corporation. And typically, most corporations issue stock to the members of that corporation, and we ask for copies of stock certificates wherever possible. Decisions of the corporation are generally done as a group, and they have minutes that evidence what happens and what decisions are made by the business. And so we generally will also look for meeting minutes to be also part of that. Next slide. The other two forms of business that we look at is a limited partnership, which is a more sophisticated version of the general partnership that we talked about earlier. Again, it could be several members that make up that limited partnership. Much like the corporation, they're only liable to the extent of their investment. And again, they have a partnership agreement that pretty much serves as their organizing document. And if they do business in any name other than what they open themselves up to be, they should also have an assumed name certificate as well. One of the more popular forms of organization that I've seen in recent years is the LLC, or limited liability company, which is, again, it's organized for, I think its real benefit is organized for tax purposes. It allows, again, individuals to have a role in the company, maybe at a less complicated level than that of a corporation. They have an operating agreement which defines the organization, how it's to operate and the like, as opposed to a corporation's bylaws. These partnerships or members that are part of this liability of this LLC are typically its owners. In many cases, they may have units of ownership or certificates, but more often than not, they're just listed as members of the corporation or the liability company in the form of the operating agreement. And this form of organization is generally run by an individual that's considered to be a managing member. Next slide. Okay. In addition to the certification procedures and processes that I talked about so far, we're also provide certification to groups or organizations that provide they act as suppliers or distributors of products and goods. We want to draw attention to this particular aspect to define what we consider to be a supplier and a distributor. Generally, a supplier is a person that may own a store or a dealer that they maintain an inventory that they sell from. They've invested in that inventory. They pretty much, and that's what they do. A distributor is generally an individual that may not have a store or a warehouse, but they have a relationship with a manufacturer to distribute its goods and products within a specified territory. Some distributors, they have what's called maybe a direct relationship in the way of a distributor agreement that might be exclusive, where they have sole control over a territory that they sell goods and services or products in. Many, though, are not necessarily as exclusive in that they're allowed to sell the products and services of that manufacturer, generally within a certain area, but it's not an exclusive arrangement. Normally, a distributor is the contact that you would go through to buy this product from the manufacturer, and that a person couldn't go to that manufacturer and buy that product directly from them. Next slide. The third type of person that's involved in the supply industry would be brokers. And brokers are typically people that we consider to be intermediaries between two groups of people. Say, for example, I want to buy widgets, and I reach out to somebody that says, hey, I can get those widgets from you, and they'll go to wherever they can find the widgets to get to for you. They have no one relationship with a manufacturer with this. They're just a third-party intermediary. They have not made an investment in the inventory, so they don't really have anything at risk. Basically, they get a fee for what they do, and anyone can probably do the same thing. So it's not necessarily as unique or exclusive as that of a distributor. For purposes of certification, people that are acting as a broker are not eligible for certification because of the fact that we don't consider them as being serving what's called a commercially useful function, and that anyone, again, could provide that service without that person having to be involved in doing it. Next slide. So after saying all of that, the process is now you're ready to apply for certification. For the most part, all of our applications are done online. We're paperless in that regard. The website for actually submitting the applications would be on the screen, www.chicago.mwdbe.com. Once you get to the website, you can access our directory of certified firms and also apply for certification. And all of our programs, all 6 of them, you can access for purposes of application at this website. For those individuals that are seeking to be certified under our local programs, the MBE, WBE, and VBE programs, there is an application fee of $250. That fee is assessed only after you submit the application online. It's been reviewed and accepted for review. So in the event that an application has been submitted and is not complete, we will not receive it or accept it for processing it. We won't charge you a fee until that's done. After it's been submitted and received, you will receive an emailed invoice, and at that time you'll provide information on how and where to make the annual application fee payment. For our federal programs, the DBE and ACDBE, as well as our programs for individuals with disabilities, there is no application fee that you won't be assessed. So anyway, again, you can pay the application fee at any of the city's payment centers or at the information that would be contained on the invoice. Next page. Okay. In preparing to submit the application, you should start gathering together information that's needed. At this point, I'm going to ask that you consider this point. I'm going to say it several times moving forward. Tell the story. In your application, we ask that you tell us about, what your company is, how it's owned, what it is you do, what type of certification you're seeking, how you provide the services that you do. Take this opportunity to tell us, basically what it is you do. I mean, and make this a sales pitch for us. I mean, we want to understand what you do and how you do it, because we're seeking to certify you in a given industry. Information that you need to begin the process would be basically information regarding ownership, employee information, where you're operating from, financial information about the business, and any relevant licenses that you may need to operate your business. Next page. Okay. In addition to the information that we mentioned, we look for information that basically provides us with a background of the owners themselves. So we look for resumes of the owners. Basically, hopefully that resume will also talk about your background and experience in the product or service that you want to provide and sell. If you've done work in this particular field, like for example, going back to my example of being a Cordell McGarry the plumber, if I've done plumbing work, and I can, along with my resume, I might want to provide you information on work that I've done. That's evidence of executed contracts or invoices that are representative of the work that I've done to help support, my background of what I do and how I do it. Driver's licenses and birth certificates or passport information is needed to help us again in identification of the owners. All owners of any business should have evidence of their contribution of what they invested in the business. I'll pause here to say that many times I get applications for certification, and when I look for the line that basically says what did they invest in the business, a lot of times they'll say nothing. And I would take issue with that. Everybody invests, makes an investment in their business in some form or fashion. It's either the paper that you use to write your business plan, the ink pen that you use to fill out the application, the laptop that you're working from, or the money that you use to incorporate your business or open up your bank account. Those are evidences of proof of equity contribution, and we would like you to provide that information. Likewise, every business that's in operation should have at least an operating account. So we would like to have information regarding that, particularly who are the authorized signers on that account. Most businesses, or really I should say all businesses, should have an organizational chart that pretty much provides an illustration of the organizational structure of the business, the reporting structure from the top to the bottom. And even if you're a one-person organization or one-person business, the organizational chart is you. So just think of it like that. A list of equipment that the business uses to operate, that would be helpful for us, as well as any information regarding any loans that are used for the business operations. Next slide. So, going into financial documents, we normally will ask for businesses to provide federal business and individual tax returns. This helps us to, again, evaluate the gross sales of the business over the period of time that we look for. If it's non-construction firms, again, we will look for 3 years of federal business and individual tax returns. If you're construction, we will look for 7 years of individual and business tax returns of the owners and the business. And of course, for DBEs, we look for 5 years. Now, I'm going to pause again because there are some businesses that are out there that may not be older than today. There's nothing preventing you from applying for certification. Again, going back to my earlier statement of tell the story, where we're asking for documents like 3 years of tax returns and you're a brand new business, tell the story. Just let us know that, hey, my business started yesterday, that information is unavailable. We understand that we would not, can hold you, let's say, at fault for not being in business. We just need to know. W-2s or 1099s of the owners and key employees are also important. We'd like to collect that information as well. Again, if you're involved in construction under our local programs or for all DBE and ACDBE applicants, we do require that they provide us with net worth statements. Next slide. Okay. After you've submitted the applications for certification, they go through what we call an intake process, where we will review the application for completeness. In the event that information is incomplete, such as we have tax returns that may not have been signed, or we might have, let's say, 2 years of tax returns and you've been in business for 5 years or so, we will return the information to you electronically, basically letting you know that it's incomplete, and we'll let you know what you need to do to complete the application. Once you have done that and resubmitted the application and we've received it, we will assign it to a certification officer for review. In the event that it's a local program, that assignment will occur after you've paid your application fee. But once it occurs, the certification staff will try to turn around your application within 90 days from the day we receive all of the documents. An incomplete application can slow the process down, which is why we try to make sure that they're complete prior to accepting them. During the review process, we review the application, we check it to make sure that we have, in addition to all of the documentation, we also try to validate the information that's there. So let's say, for example, if you are looking to be certified as a plumber, we want to make sure that we have evidence that the individual, the business has been organized, and that the ownership that has the control of the business has a background in plumbing. It may involve having evidence of, let's say, serving as an apprenticeship. It may involve having evidence of educational certificates that you may have received, or training that you may have received. All that is part of the review process that we will undergo to determine basically if you meet the eligibility criteria. In that sense, we thoroughly audited the information. In some cases, if you're involved in construction, trucking, you're a supplier, or if you're an ACDBE or DB applicant, you will receive a site visit from staff. We'll come out to meet with you at your place of business wherever possible, or we might do it virtually. The intent of the site visit is to meet with the owners to get a face-to-face understanding of what the business does, how it does it, the role of the owners in the business, and so on. Next slide. Okay. Assuming at this point you've done all of that, we've done our part, you're certified. Congratulations. Certification is indefinite. Doing this is so that there's no expiration of certification. We do ask, though, as a condition of maintaining your certification, that the businesses submit what's called an annual affidavit. We also call it the no change affidavit. And that basically is an affidavit that states that there's been no changes in the composition of the business, in its operation, in its business size, or personal net worth of the owners that would render the business no longer eligible for certification. And we generally will do that on an annual basis. If you've done that, then you've maintained your certification and you're good. However, if there are any changes to the business, say you've changed the name, you've changed your location, you may have sold the business or added on another owner, you should let us know within 10 business days of that change being made. And you can always do all of this online. We have an expansion application that we use to try to, again, capture this type of information. You can also send a follow-up email to the DPS certification team, and we'll get back to you if there are any questions you might have on the changes that were made. Next slide. Okay. The expansion application I referred to earlier actually is also used to grow your business. While certification does not expire, it's indefinite, it's not static, it's not fixed in that as your business grows, you can grow your certification. So again, going back to my example of Cordell McGarry the plumber, let's say I take on a different trade. I take on, let's say, streetscape. It's something I want to do. I want to participate in an opportunity to do that type of work. If I have the background and experience or I've gained it, I can also ask that my certification be expanded to include that service. And that's typically done on the expansion application process that I mentioned earlier. All services that are done by a business are categorized in what we call an industry code, which is, we refer to it as NAICS or NAICS code. NAICS stands for the North American Industrial Classification System, and it's used to classify businesses based upon what they do. So again, going back to my example of Cordell McGarry the plumber, I have a NAICS code that basically identifies me as a plumber. If I'm going to expand my business to provide other services, there's a category or NAICS code that I can, if I can identify it, I can use to actually to describe what it is I do. In the event that you are unaware of the NAICS system or you don't know that code, you can always call our office again and we'll help you with regard to that. As part of your expansion to a new service or a product, you should always include information that's going to provide and support what it is you do. I always go back and say, tell a story. One of the first things I would do if I'm looking to expand my service is to provide a statement that indicates that I'm doing this. I would like to pretty much do something else. Here's the background and information that I have to support that. It may include licenses, contracts that I may have been involved in, again, in that particular area, updated resume that might show my training and background in the area that I'm seeking to add on. But that's part of telling that story, and this should be also part of your expansion request. Next slide. Okay. Again, everybody that's listening to me now and everybody that goes through the application process after hearing this presentation has been certified, right? Well, there may be some reasons, though, why, unfortunately, some may not be. The top 10 reasons that we look at for most of for firms being denied could be basically, I guess, illustrated on this page here. The most important part here is the unsubstantiated or questionable ownership and control. What we mean by that is that we have individuals that are applying for certification and looking at the application, we're not quite sure who's running the business or who the real owners are. In some cases, we will ask again that the owners basically tell us who they are, what it is they do, and how they do it. But sometimes it's still not clear.
In the event that we reach out to you and we can't figure it out, we won't know who to certify, and that could be that's one of the main reasons why firms are denied. Um, Unclear description of critical functions and who's responsible is also related to that. If let's say I and my best friend we're the co-owners of this plumbing business, and let's say it's not clear as to who's doing the work. Let's say, for example, my partner does maybe the marketing, and I might do the administrative function, and we might hire somebody else to do the plumbing work. Uh, it may not be clear as to who's responsible. That could be a basis for denial. Company cannot substantiate when or where the startup funds expansion capital was initiated. For many small businesses, again, it's real simple. I mean, I invested $100 to buy my certification filing papers with the state Secretary of State. That's an example of that. You may have some larger businesses though, where you may have several people investing in the business, and it's not clear as to how the funds where they came from, and basically how it was initiated. So let's say, for example, we got three people that are involved in the business. Two of them are minorities, one is a non-minority. If we can't substantiate the fact that 2/3 of the startup money came from the minorities and 1/3 came from the non-minority, that could be an issue. There have been times when that non-minority may come up with all the money, and the ones that are seeking to be certified come up with none. Those are things that we look for. If we can't substantiate how it was set up or where the funds came from, that could be a basis for denial. Um, for new businesses in particular, um, if you're involved, if I start a business today, a plumbing business today, and it's just from scratch, it's probably not possible for me to live off that business right away. I may need to continue my employment until this business gets off the ground. So basically, we try to take that into consideration. But if we see circumstances where the outside employment of the individuals prevent you from actually running your business, then that could be an issue. Um, so if I'm starting a new business and I'm telling you that I'm open 5 days a week from 9 to 5, and I have outside employment where I'm also working for somebody else from 9 to 5, that could be a conflict. That could be an issue. Where that secondary employment takes most of my time away from actually running my business, or better yet, raises the question of who's running the business if I'm not there. Again, that could be an issue. For our local programs, if you're not situated in one of the 6 county regions, that could be a basis for denial. During the course of review, we will reach out to you if there are any questions that we might have or information that we might seek to have you provide clarification on. We will normally reach out to you by way of sending you a notification or request for information. Um, it could very well be we have a tax return that hasn't been signed, that we need to have it signed to verify that it is the actual final tax return. We might reach out to you to say, okay, we need to have you provide us a signed copy of this tax return. We will normally give you um, 20 days, 15 to 20 days to respond to that request. In the event that you don't, we'll send you another notice basically asking for cooperation. In the event that we've reached out to you several times and you have not responded, that could be a basis for denial based upon what we call a non-cooperation. Again, we're trying to keep this ball rolling with regard to processing, and we can't let your application hold up others that are in the queue waiting. Inconsistency with the application's firm name among various documents. This is a common thing that I've also seen. If I'm the ABC Corporation and I have an application that says that, and my filing with the Secretary of State says ABCD Corporation, it could raise a question as to really who's being certified. And again, the inconsistency could also result in not being certified because we don't know who to certify. Problems with contracts that may be submitted. Um, Generally, when we ask for contracts to be submitted to evidence work that's being done by the firm, we want to see the contract to include the scope of work that's being performed by the applicant business. There have been cases where I've received the first and last pages of a contract that basically says, I have a contract and I signed it, but there's nothing that tells us basically what it is you've done or how you do it. In the event that we have difficulty being able to qualify the business based upon it being able to provide the services that it says it does, and you give me a contract like this, it would result in you being denied. Required documents that are submitted in the application are not attached and no explanation is given as to why the documents are not available. This typically occurs during the intake process where we have a list of required documents that's being requested. And in many cases, if the information is not there, the applicant will say NA. We need to know more than it's not NA. We need to understand why it's not available. Again, telling the story is important. Going back to the example of a startup business that are unable to provide 7 years of tax returns. The explanation would be that the business didn't exist, but we need to know that. So again, that's telling that story. In the event that you don't tell us the story, we have to reach out to you. And again, if you don't respond, that again could be another reason why you're denied. So telling that story is so important. Basically, the last one, required number of years of tax returns are not submitted or signed as required. I think that speaks for itself. We need to have the required number of years of tax returns. We need to have them signed as a way of authenticating that these are the tax returns. And if you don't provide that, after we've requested it from you several times, again, that would be the basis for denial. But none of those things will apply to you, I know that. So anyway, in the event that there are any questions regarding the certification process, you can always contact me, and my email is shown on the screen. But you can also contact our office. Our number is 312-744-7666. That's my direct number. So that's me. But if you want to contact our office, you can always call 312-744-4900, option 1. And that number will get you to any one of a number of certification officers who are ready and willing to help you answer any questions you might have regarding certification. So we've kind of reached the point now where I can be quiet and listen to you and answer any questions that you might have regarding the process. I thank you for your time and hearing us out, but I'm going to open up the door for you. Thank you. Jackie?
All right. Thank you, Cordell, as well. Always a wonderful job in explaining the art of certification and how to get certified. I also in the chat put that number Cordell was given, 312-744-4900, option number 1. There are a few questions, so I'll just jump right on in and give you the questions. If the corporation only has a single employee, like an LLC or an S Corp, are meeting minutes still required?
Good question. I want to say yes so badly, but no, they aren't. But I would recommend that you provide them simply because the LLC or the corporation legally is a separate entity, separate from you personally. So the meeting minutes serve to document the decisions of that entity as opposed to you. So, even though it may be me, I came, I met, I elected myself as president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, meeting is over. It's just a formality. But no, you don't have to have it. If you're an individual, one person owned business, no, you don't. That does become more important though as your business grows. So let's say I have 10 shareholders of my corporation now, and I'm still a S corporation, right? How are those decisions made? And those minutes then become more valuable because they represent the consensus of the group as opposed to the individual. Hope that answers your question.
Also, there was a question that basically asked, it didn't say where they were researching, but they said, while we're researching WBE, MBE certifications on the website, it appeared that there were 2 different certification applications, one for construction and another for professional certifications. I'm not sure if this was on our website because I thought we only have one, but you can answer that.
Yeah, I believe the question refers to a process that we have that's called the Professional Declaration of Eligibility. And as a matter of fact, we have a workshop on that coming up, I think, on the 10th. Professional Declaration of Eligibility is a process that we provide to allow professionals such as attorneys and certified public accountants who've been around for 3 or more years and are familiar with the certification process to step into the role of the certification officer in making the review and determination or recommendation of eligibility. So basically, that professional person would do everything that we do in terms of reviewing the application, making sure that it is eligible in accordance with the applicable regulations. They will collect the same information that we collect, and they'll step in and make that recommendation of certification based upon their professional career and their professional qualifications as an attorney or a certified public accountant. This is done outside of the city. We don't recommend attorneys or accountants. We have no list of that. That's done solely on.
You went out. Cordell, something happened.
Not eligible for people
Mhm.
that are involved in construction or DBE programs.
Okay, you went out for a bit there, Cordell. I don't know what happened. Maybe something was pushed or whatever. But the next question is: if denied, can you reapply? If so, is there a limit?
There's a if you've ever had the unfortunate occurrence of being denied, or for that matter, being decertified, there is a waiting period of at least a year before you can reapply,
Okay.
and that goes across all the programs.
Okay. And then are there let me see, hold on one second. Are there any service opportunities available that a small business owner could have the application fee totally or partially waived?
I'm not sure I understand that with regard to a waiver. Um, so perhaps additional information can be provided. And I'm going. I guess if I guess when the question was first brought to me, I thought about perhaps this person is saying that okay, I'm applying for certification. You're asking me for 3 years of tax returns, but I've only been around for 2 months. So can you waive that requirement? Um, as long as you've told a story and it's something that you can't do because of the fact that you didn't exist, that's understandable. I guess in that sense we wouldn't hold that against you. If you're asking, for example, my net worth is $3 million and your net worth standard is $2.6 million, and can I get it waived? No, I couldn't do we couldn't do that.
And then it could be that they're asking if the 250 can be waived. Maybe
I
that.
can't I can't say I've ever seen it happen before. Uh, so I'm not going to say no. Um, I think that most certainly a person could make that request. They should probably make a formal request to the department, providing the circumstances as to why they may not be unable to do that, and perhaps we might be able to give you a decision based upon that. Right now, as I understand it, the application fee is a required fee, and for purposes of seeking application certification in that sense. Now, again, the DBE, federal DBE program and ACDBE programs, they have no application fee. So if you're looking to try to get started, you can also try to apply there as well for certification. And I should also point out too that currently the application fee is a one-time fee. So once it's paid, you never have to do it again. So I mean and you don't have to do it when you expand. You don't have to do it when you do a no change affidavit. It's a fee that's assessed only at the time of your initial application.
And if I could quickly add my 2 cents in, Cordell, there are sister agencies. I'm sorry, assist agencies that have different types of how would you say grants
Yes.
or incentives that they help out in those cases. So yeah, closed mouth never gets fed. So I would recommend that you research everywhere and send off, like Cordell said, maybe a notice and ask, is there any possibility that you could get help with this, or uh, you know, get it waived or whatever, and see what will come of it. But there are different organizations that help out with those types of things. So if you're interested, um, in the back of the buying plan is a list of um, assist agencies, and you can contact them and ask that question too. Are there any additional questions? If there are no additional questions, I'm gonna give a few minutes for you to type those in. Let me just say, Cordell, if you'd like to add anything additional, any key point, any takeaway from today's session that you want to reiterate, feel free at this time to do that, and then I'm going to close out.
No problem. So just again, just to kind of summarize, certification is a tool. It's not a guarantee of contract opportunity, but it's a tool that could enable you as a small business person an opportunity to participate in contracts that are offered from time to time by the city of Chicago and other agencies as well. So in that sense, that's the first point I want to make. Businesses are certified based upon their ownership by a qualified individual, be it a minority or a woman, or in this case, some cases, being disabled or a veteran. That business owner or group of people that should comprise at least 51% of the ownership. That individual or group of people should have a background and experience in the services or products that are being offered by the business. You don't necessarily have to do them yourself directly, but you should have the background and technical knowledge of what's being done to be able to control it and make this business decisions as needed. So that's an important part of it. You must be a small business, and there are varying degrees of what constitutes being a small business, but by and large, we're looking at millions of dollars of gross sales averaged over a period of several years. So that's one thing you can look at. We also want the owners, in some cases, to not have a personal net worth that's in excess of several $1,000,000. I mean, again, the program is designed to try to work with individual small businesses that are trying to get established or trying to grow their business itself, and that's kind of an important part there. When you're certified, once you're certified indefinitely, and that goes for all of our programs. You are required, though, to submit what's called annual affidavits, attesting that there's been no change in circumstances that will affect your certification. In that sense, you can grow your certification based upon the things that you do. So as your business grows, you take on more products and services. You can also grow that certification to also accommodate those things. One thing I didn't mention is that in our local programs, let's say our MBE programs and as well, we have special relationship with Cook County. Cook County also has a certification program for people that want to do business with the county. The city and the county we have an arrangement whereby we will recognize one another's certifications. So there is reciprocity in that sense, in that if you're certified with Cook County and you want to participate on an opportunity for a city contract, you can. And likewise, if you're certified with the city and you want to participate in a contract opportunity with the county, you can without having to go back and go get recertified with that agency. For our federal programs, DBE and ACDBE, there are 5 agencies in the state of Illinois that provide certifications for businesses that are involved in the DBE program and ACDBE program. And they are the City of Chicago, of course, Chicago Transit Authority, Illinois Department of Transportation, Metro Rail, and Pace Bus Services. All the agencies basically receive federal dollars and are mandated to have a program for DBE or businesses that want to do business with those agencies. So as a result of that, you only need to be certified as a DBE or ACDBE with just one of those agencies, and you can participate in those contract opportunities as well with those agencies. Finally, and this is a benefit of the MBE certification, is that there are a number of other groups like the Board of Education, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, for example, that also have procurement needs. They also are seeking to do business with minority firms. And as such, we'll tend to recognize the certification with the city of Chicago. So there's a lot of information that's out there. There's a lot of opportunities that you can take advantage of, not just with the city, but with those sister agencies as things come about. A good example of that might be, for example, CTA has a project going on with regard to expanding the red line. That's going to result in a lot of contract opportunities, but you don't necessarily have to just be certified with CTA to participate in them. As a DB with the city of Chicago, you can also participate in those contract opportunities as well. So there's a lot of value to the certification.
All right, that there you have heard it. Let me just kind of sum up everything that we have heard today and to let you know where you can find everything. This workshop will be where you can go back and listen to it. It will be online at youtube.com/Chicago DPS. When you get to the Chicago DPS landing page, you will click on the 2024 DPS workshop playlist, and you will be able to see this one. The title of this workshop is How to Become Certified, and it will have today's date. Let me also say, as far as certification is concerned, what Cordell was giving you is the certification for the city of Chicago. We are aware that there are other certifications out there. As he mentioned, Cook County is reciprocal to the City of Chicago certification. However, there are other types of certification, whether they're through our assist agencies or through some of our sister agencies. So I say to you, if you are looking to be certified, you want to read the information in detail and make sure you are certifying with the correct entity that you want to be certified with, because the fees do ring up if you decide to go, let's say, with assist agency and then come over to City of Chicago. You would still have to pay the $250. To answer one other question that was asked, as far as our website is concerned, read the website carefully, because I think the question about the construction versus non-construction is just basically saying that there are different types within our certification field. There's professional services, there's construction, and Cordell probably could tell you the other aspects of it. Commodities. There's various types, but when you are being certified, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cordell, it's one certification for the city of Chicago.
That's correct.
So once you get into it, it is when you're looking through the buying plan, we have them segmented by whether it's a professional service, or if it's a commodity, or if it's a construction, or whatever else it is. So I would just say, don't get caught up with that. If you're looking to be certified with the city of Chicago, there's one application. Do your best to read through that application, identify all the things that you need, get those materials that you need, and then if you have further questions, feel free to reach out at the number that we've given in the chat 312-744-4900 option 1. Okay, and that should be able to help everyone. So with that said, I know we went over a little bit, 15 minutes, but we want to say thank you to Cordell McGarry for imparting that great information. He is my Bible in certification. If it is anything you need to know, he does know that. He has been working here for quite some time. Plus, he has had his own businesses and things, so he does know much about this field. Second of all, we want to thank the participants for coming, because we know that you have a choice of getting your information and getting certified from other places. We welcome you to do business with the city of Chicago, and hopefully we will see you soon after, bidding on things after you get your certification. So with that said, we want to thank you. Have a great, wonderful rest of your day. There is a survey that comes up at the end when you close out of this session. It is a post survey that comes up. If there are topics that you want us to cover, that's what I do. So I want to make sure I get that information from you if you're interested in giving it. So feel free to go ahead and write out whatever you would like on that post survey and submit it. Only takes like 2 minutes of your time after we're done here. So we greatly appreciate you doing that. And on behalf of the Department of Procurement Services, we thank you for coming, and we hope that you come back to another session real soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay in from the rain, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Take care.